Okay, hello, our viewers. So here we today with our new guest. Antonina Gotfrid, me, Alexei Kostadov, and my co-host Daria Shulga. So I think I need to remind that this today is tragic for our all Ukraine. But on my mind, this theme that we will tell today is very actual and important in the course of our destroyed cultural heritage, destroyed our cultural objects in Kherson Oblast. So please introduce yourself. Tell us maybe about our themes. And we will start.
Hi, everybody. My name is Antonina Gotfrid. I am Ukrainian documentary filmmaker, and I'm today. Uh, I want to say that I'm happy to be a guest of this project, but as you know, today is not a very happiness day for Ukraine, so I hope that you understand it. But life is continue, and we need to do something that we can do.
Yeah, and by the way, it's an amazing coincidence because Antonina has a huge experience, and he will tell us closer about her motherland, the region where she comes from. That's why we can't even imagine a better guest for today.
Yeah, um, uh, I couldn't imagine more symbolic guests today for you, let me, because I was born in Crimea in Simferopol, and um, I was studying in musical schools, and after that in musical college. And at the age of 19, I moved to Kiev, and I was studying in Kiev Cinema University. And I say all the time that I'm very lucky person because my profession in my education is the same profession in my life. So, yes, sure. Today, this day is very very sad for me because as everybody know, I hope in other planet that today Russia blew up Kakhovska Dam, and my homeland, part of my homeland, I talk about Crimea, now is in a very dangerous situation, and Crimea still is a part of Ukraine, sure, and Khersonsk district is a big dangerous too because a lot of people are surrounded by water and their houses are underwater and a lot of animals died uh, and they will continue dying unfortunately. And I don't know many, but I have one of my independent docu movie about Ukrainian alphabet. It's called Rutenia, and if somebody want, you can find it this movie on the YouTube channel. It's called the same Rutenia. And one episode of this film is the episode about Khersonsk district, because it's very, very old and very, very important part of Ukrainian and for Ukrainian nationality and for other culture. Because many, many centuries ago, the first Ukrainian, if you can say, as people, they called Tripolцы, Tripilia. They have one of a big city very closer to Kherson, and they try to find the first words and the first alphabet. That and most of these words and symbol from alphabet we use till now. So this catastrophe today is this disaster is not about climate disaster or war disaster. It's a cultural disaster too. But I hope that everything will be okay and Ukrainian water from Dnipro will be loyal for our nature and our country. So.
Yeah, we all hope so. So we'll know, and especially I think many of our Ukrainian viewers, that Dnipro maybe is a symbolic river to our country. So and the Kherson that set out in the river mouth of Dnipro is especially symbolic town in our city, in our not in our city, in our country, and in our maybe history too. So, if you're talking about your career in filmmaking, especially about Ruthenia film, so maybe tell us about background of this film. How do you why do you wanted to make it? Maybe some motivation about it. So we also share the link about this film in our description. So I think it will be interesting to hear.
Yes, it's a really interesting story because I'm a director of this film, but I have my producer. It's Natalia Yakovleva, and it was very simple day, and we was together on the big festival in Kiev, and it's called Without Transliteration Mistevsky Arsenal. And in the first or maybe third, I don't know, floor, there was book exhibition, and the part of this book exhibition was exhibition Vasil Chebanik exhibition, and at that time, so it was just 4 years ago. He was just one of Ukrainian calligraphs, and I was very surprised that wow, all the time I think that calligraphy is something about Japanese or maybe Chinese, but not about Ukraine. But I was wrong, because any country has calligraphs, because if you use, I don't know, some flyers, maybe um, everything in books, in magazines, there are a lot of different languages, and in any country, and any country need their own calligraphs, and my idea was, oh my God, it's a Ukrainian alphabet. It's look very specifically, and I read that Vasil Chebanik, uh, he was working with this alphabet during maybe 15 years, and now, and at that time he was maybe 18. I don't know, but I can be wrong. So I think about such very old man, maybe the most part of his life, working with 33 symbols. And I think that it's very interesting story. And we start to create. First was a presentation, and after that we shoot movie.
Yeah,
So
well, I think we also, yeah, I watched the movies about the Ruthenian, I think, old or I don't know to say. But I think I can compare it with Caroline Minusco in the way of importance, because maybe it can change. It will be changed Ukrainians' future, like Caroline Minusco changed European. So
Okay, let me please add one more aspect about the naming of that amazing event, because Antonina mentioned that the name of that event was Mistetsky Arsenal with the usage of transliteration. And for our international guests, let me tell that literally it will be translated like an arsenal of artists. Yeah, and if you know, like the arsenal is usually used when we're talking about the collection of weapons. So yeah, artists, they are our weapon who can protect our culture, who can popularize it, and who can force and fight with the usage of cultural aspects and promote them for the whole world. So the naming of that event was also important as well, and now it has even deeper meaning that it had before.
yeah, actually, if we come back to other Ukrainian main theme today, Kherson Before this day, many people in Kherson, they put on the ground Ukrainian letter, like it's look like line and 2 points. Maybe you can show right now how it looks, and it was one of they have only one way to say that this territory is still Ukrainian territory. So symbol and art, yes, it's weapon all the time.
Yeah, and coming back to the way how to become a weapon, would you please cover us this internal topic and tell us a little bit more about the way how to become a filmmaker?
When I was a little girl, my dream was that I want in future I want to be a journalist or detective, and I think profession like filmmaker is two in one. Because if you talk about documentary, you need to be a good journalist. Actually, today is Journalist Day, International Journalist Day. So congratulations, colleagues. And but on our side, you need to be a detective because you, like a detective, try to tell a story for audience. But if you talk about my way, it was very simple way because I finished cinema university actually, and I started to work in different Ukrainian channels, TV channels. And at first it was TV shows, a lot of TV shows. And after that, I understood that I grow up as a professional and I can do something more. And I started to work on the Ukrainian TV channel. It's called ICTV channel, and it was a big part of my life because actually in ICTV I started to create documentary movies, but it was specific movies for actually TV channel, not independent movie. And after that, I had a big experience with TV channel. It's called Ukraina, like Ukraine. And I was a main director of detective, actually, TV series. It was called, if we talk about without translation, Agent Справедливости. You can find it on your YouTube too, maybe sometimes in subtitles on the different languages. And after that, I understood that okay, now I don't want to be a part of any TV channels, but I'm really thankful for all my previous jobs, and I feel that I have energy and I have a big experience to start my own career like independent filmmaker. Actually, Rutenia was my first documentary film like independent filmmaker, and now I have three. I just finished third film in Berlin. Maybe later we can talk about it. Yep, and in this position, like independent filmmaker, I feel more free on the one side, but on the another side, it's more stressful that somebody on the TV channel decided what you will do in the future, because now only me can have plan of what I will do and my crew will do in the future.
Yeah, I think all of Ukrainians understand the importance of independence. So, I think it's a very interesting aspect of filmmaking. But if you're talking about current film, Rutenia, so I want that in will be the continue of this, maybe as a second part, because on my mind there was not. Don't say all the truth told, because I think there's a lot of more information that can be interesting to viewers that liked the film Rutenia. And the second my question is about what is genres which will you make in future? So will it be documentary like Rutenia, or maybe some other films? So, or you like to make documentary films?
With which question I need to start and to answer?
Whatever you want.
So first was about tell more information about Ruthenian movie.
Will be continue the second part. Maybe is there planning maybe a second part or
Actually, we with my producer have a very ambitious plan to have the second part of Rotenia, but it will be called um, Constitution.
Can we count it as a preview or announce of this event? We found out the top first new information. We are the first people who learned it from you.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, by the way.
Yeah, maybe after 1 year, I will invite you for our premiere, but because it's a very modern story. And I don't know how many people from Europe are on other stream right now, but just imagine that the first Ukrainian constitution is it the first European constitution, and it was created after Poltavska Bitva in Ukraine, not in Ukraine, in Turkey actually, and one of the Sweden king, it called Karl 12. He was like he supported this constitution, and the original Ukrainian constitution on the Latin language still in Stockholm, in the National History Museum. And in Ukraine, we have not original constitution; we have only copies. And we have not, unfortunately, our constitution by Kirillitsa, by Ukrainian language. And is an incredible story about support and work Ukraine and European countries. And that's why that this story is repeat in other days. Because one point after that, 9 years ago, war in Ukraine started, was that Ukrainian society decided to be a part of European society. But other neighborhoods from Russia have another opinion. And the same story was 7 centuries ago. So history very like circus, unfortunately. Yep. And if we talk about the second part of Rutenia, coming soon. But the second question is
what genre do you like to film? So will be documentary? So will you continue to film documentary films, or maybe you change something like on more and more other like try you in other genres? Yeah.
May I also please insert a piece of information, because I also investigated your masterpieces and I found out one really interesting aspect that, okay, I can bear in mind the idea that you wanted to become a detective, and maybe that's why you decided to dig deeper into documentary films. But if we're talking about your independent works, yeah, like the latest works, they were not as detective as the previous works were, and now they are more about real life. They are connected mainly with art, and they are less documentary but more about emotions, feelings, and they are still deep and so provoking, but in another way.
Thanks for these words. But I talk about detective because sometimes when you try to find idea, you like a detective inside your mind. And and sometimes all people in the world like secrets very much, and so that's why detective story is so popular still now in other online platforms. And why? Because um, the structure of detective movie, it's very good working, mm, and it's a very good storytelling. So the one of my advance that if you want to tell your story, it doesn't matter. It will be a script for movie, or it will be just a little story in the kitchen for your mom or for your dad. Try to tell the story like a good detective story. So, for example, last day I was at a very specific place, and I have very interesting adventures. But now I try to tell you how I find this place. And just promise me that your mom or dad or maybe your future audience will be very interested in this story if you will tell the story like in my example.
You just shifted our attention. Firstly, you told that you will tell us
Yeah.
everything just right now. And after that, you told, okay, a few steps back, and I will tell you a kind of like pre-story before telling a real story. It's a good approach, actually. I have never heard about it.
But it's work, and yeah.
Is it something that comes from theory or something that you managed to create with the usage of your experience through your filmmaking life?
I think that it's my experience from my 5 years working on the detective stories, but it's work before me and after me and in the future and in the past.
Yeah, I
I,
agree with you because yeah, in Rutenia I admitted that it was because you started from the history, so you extend my attention and I think attention of your viewers about history of what you're doing. So talking about accents and attention, so what is the role of music in your film Rutenia especially? Because and who is music writer? Because I need to say thank for him because the music is amazing. It's accenting attention of viewers in what is important. For example, if there is some tragedy moments, a tragedy music, and it is real good. So I think I really need to say thanks to him or her or
it's
yeah.
he, and yeah, um, you know, I know his artist name like Jim. And his real name you can find of our credits. But if we talk about music, especially in Rutenia and in my attention for music, um, you know, some filmmakers and directors and script writers and producers are very, very scared when they heard music in the movie, because music is the main instrument that you can manipulation with emotion your audience. It's very strong instrument and very simple on the one side, but on the another side, it's not very professional that you use music all the time during your movie. But if we talk about music in Ruritania, me and other brilliant and very talented composers, sure, tried to create music that was very gentle and touching heart of audience, because the main topic of this movie is not simple, and I think that we did it very well. And I know sometimes feedback about Titania movie that music, sometimes you cannot understand that the music is still in episode, and if it works, it's very good. Because if you want to um, cancel music on some episode, it doesn't matter, it's movie or maybe a little video blog or maybe stream special like this, it's a big problem. Yep. But I can to create little bridge between a question, because my third movie, it's called Place of Peace, and I hope that during maybe this year, I will show you the big audience of a movie, because now this movie we just sent into the film festivals. It's a music docu movie. So the music is the first and movie and on the second. Yes, it sounds strange, but it's like a metaphoric. I don't know.
Yeah, you were just, I don't know, predicted my question because I also thought about that, and I also wanted to ask you about this movie because we found out a lot of different articles. Yeah, unfortunately, like the whole version of this movie is not available, but we managed to find like some small pieces and general description of viewers, I don't know, people who managed to watch this movie, and there were actually a lot of different descriptions. And how would you announce or how would you describe this film?
Um, you know, the one of feedback our composer of this film, he said that it's a musical theater, and maybe he is right. Because the structure of this movie is a little strange, very art. That we was shooting 6 performances on the Berlin streets, and the performance artist was a brilliant Ukrainian folk group Vilce. It's an amazing Ukrainian folk group, very talented girls, and they try to save Ukrainian folk songs. And actually, we have brilliant and talented other set designer, art designer. It's Alina Kashitsina. She from Ukraine, but now she's live in Athens, and she create especially for this street performances art objects like nets and trees and plants with blood, and it's little spoilers, but all these symbolic things will be in our trailer, so it doesn't matter. And between these music episodes with street performances, is it episodes about human story? We have 5 protagonists, and they just tell their story, how they was living in Ukraine, what happened at the start, at the 2022 on February, and how they tried to found themselves on the another country and try um, to start uh, not new life, because they have a previous life, start to find place of peace inside their minds in this incredible time and incredible situation. So, and if we come back about music, we choose this very strange structure, that music documentary, because music is language that you don't need to translate this. And and this movie was shooting not for Ukrainian, because we know what happened in our country. This music was shooting for European audience, and I hope and I know that it will be work and it's more quickly way to explain what happened in Ukraine right now.
Yeah, I think that the game is about the 24th February and the I think modern stage of our Ukrainian war, because it started in 14th. Yeah, it's very important because we have examples of, for example, games as I myself played it about the 24th February. It tells a story of three people. I don't think if some there is gamers, maybe do you know, like this war of mine is a game
Mhm.
about war crimes, and this is like this from our Ukrainian developers. So I think the more content about these tragedies is important. So talking about your films, especially about war, so can you cover up myths from the film of war faces? So what does it mean for you, especially what meaning did you put inside this name, and maybe so I think it's interesting question to ask.
Yeah, dear viewers, just short announce for those who are not in this topic. The name of the film is War Faces or Worm Faces because the letter M is hidden by columns. Yeah, so you may read it in two different ways. And firstly, it's a kind of like hint for you, and you also need to proceed it in your head and understand what is the way how you will read it first.
That was main idea that you can read these credits with two waves, but my film, not my only my the producer of this film is Ivan Yasny, and it's a film about PTCB, and we were shooting this film 1 years ago before the this incredible situation started in Ukraine and other land. And you know, we were shooting in medicine hospital. It's a little closer to Kiev. It's called Isava Polyana, and now it's one of the modern center that help and will helping Ukrainian soldiers after other winter, sure. And it was like very quiet story about people, about Ukrainian soldier with PTCB that try to come back in other everyday lives. And during the film, they try um, to be honest with themselves and other audience and just sharing their stories, their life before war, in the war, and after war. So that's why the first piece of our credit is war, but on Ukrainian it's called Tepli Lica, like warm faces, because these faces, it's faces of Ukrainian soldier that was protected um, of the society at the first part of this war that actually started not in 2022, it was started 2014. So it's this credits like warm faces, it's other way to say thanks and to share other respect for that guys.
I think it's very interesting that you use the symbolic, I don't know, it's not symbols, but symbolic meaning of the words in your name of film, because the whole film of Rutina is about symbol. That symbols is, I think, one of the important way to in our lives. So, so you continue this lines of thinking in your next names of your films.
Antonina, I just need to confess that you managed to realize the dream from your childhood. You are a detective because right now, during the conversation with you, I feel that we are a kind of like decoding the hints that you left for us in your different plots, scenarios, in different films. And when we combine them all together, we may find out a new reality. And only if you combine everything, you will actually learn the main idea and the main structure, like the main performance of all these masterpieces together. So you are a great detective.
So that's why I wish that every child in the world have very strong dream, and I really wish that dream will come true in our life, and in the lives of other children, other colleagues, other parents. Doesn't matter. Everybody, people in the world. So yes, I like symbols, and I know that you like symbols too, and everybody in the world likes symbols because we use them every time. Even now, we have in our screen a lot of symbols, like we are online, and we have other names, and another graphic symbols. So they around us, and it's very quick way to share a lot of information in other point.
Okay, I think yeah, we need to announce to our viewers maybe second part of our interview, if you don't mind. Really, I really want to make it second part because we have a lot of questions that we want to ask you about, especially about your new films. When we receive such more information and view all that we have. So I think we can finalize over this part of the interview. So with our
We
final
have
question.
one more symbol of our
Yeah.
interviews that Alexei will announce for everybody and for
Yeah.
you.
The three meanings, I think, symbols maybe in your mind, because or three words that you associate with Ukraine. So we're asking that all the foreigners, our viewers, so foreigners, our guests. So it's interesting to hear about you because of the symbolic, maybe something. So I think it will be interesting for you. So three meanings, word associations, symbols that you associate with Ukraine.
um, you know, it's a big different with my often association symbols from Ukraine, and symbols from Ukraine now famous in the world. Actually, I can say that at first it's colors, our national colors, because now I think during especially last year it was the most famous colors in the world. It's a special number of yellow and blue. Sure. Uh, Maybe it will be first. It could be a first. Second symbol from Ukraine. Uh,
You may think not only about symbols, but about your associations. Maybe it's like a warm borscht that cooked with a special recipe.
Stop, not borscht, not the other national instrument called bandura. No, it's more deeper. Um, my oven association is um, summer, and very very warm summer, and I'm driving by car from to Odessa. One more association is very modern and beautiful city that called Kiev, and especially Podol and the streets in the Podol on the Podol district, and maybe three is third. It's Ukrainian songs, especially folk songs. especially songs for children. Because I think it's one of most intimate and gentle and touch heart music.
Yeah, it's an interesting answer because you're saying so accurate. Because most said about such abstract things like independence, their maybe will or something like this, but these actual symbols and meanings, I think it's more not important, but more interesting, but and more accurate to people who live in Ukraine. So
Yeah,
thank you.
it's such an amazing experience because you described your associations in such a deep way, and you allow us to feel it through your eyes, like to look into the world with the usage of your eyes. It's really a thought-provoking feeling, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think.
Another
Mhm. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I just try to tell that in the 1 year before we had the opportunity to finish this stream with words, "Oh, welcome to Ukraine," and you will see everything by your eyes. But now we can also finish with words, but we can say that welcome to Ukraine after we will be a winner.
Yeah, I think we all will be winner because good we always beat the evil. So I think Ukraine will win this war, and I think we also think the same. So goodbye to our viewers. Bye bye. I think. See you in the next part of our interview or next interview in our next one. So bye bye.
Thank you so much for being our amazing guest, and thank you for sharing your experience.
And thank you. Thanks a lot. See you.